Hello. Hi. Hello, everyone. Hi. Welcome to our May events. Nice to see everyone here. So I'm Serena, or Serena, depending how you want to pronounce it. I'm one of the ProductTank organizer and a product manager. And I forgot my clicker today. Hold on. So I know there are a few newbies today here at our event, so I just want to give you an introduction of who we are and what we do. So ProductTank is part of Mind the Product, and we organize meetups for product people by product people. As mentioned, we are part of the Mind the Product community, and you can get involved as well. You can speak at one of our events. You can host or sponsor, like Mews did today. You can write for Mind the Product, or you can join the community as well. Mind the Product is part of Pendu, and Pendu is organizing our event on the 20th of June. You can join us. You feel free to scan the QR code to buy the tickets. There are some discounts code as well. They're really tiny at the top, so if you can't see them, come and find us later, and we can send them to you so you can purchase the tickets with a discount rate. Great, so we also have our LinkedIn page if you want to follow us and find out about our next events. Just scan the QR code and yeah, find out a bit more about what we're doing and the future events. So as mentioned, today's event is sponsored by Mews. Thank you so much. And they're gonna be here talking as well. So as you saw, today's event is about product trios. And yeah, I'm very excited about this. I'm a big fan. So if you don't know, at the end of the session, we're going to have a Q&A. You can start adding some questions on Slido by scanning the QR code, or or going on Slido and adding the code over there. Great, I think we are ready to start. So I'll pass it over to Susanna, Alder, and Jakub. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zuzana, and I'm from Mews. I'm a product designer, and today I'm going to speak about working in a product trio. Here on stage with me is Jakub, my engineering manager, and Alder, my product manager. So just for start, could you help me raise your hands, everyone who is a product manager here today? Wow. Nice. And now second exercise, raise your hands, everyone, even other positions than product managers who are working in a product trio. Okay, thank you very much. Today we are going to talk first about what is product trio, why we need it, and what are the benefits of having it in your company and in your team. Afterwards, we will walk you through some real stories that we've been through, how we failed and how we succeeded. And at the end, we will show you a few of our regular rituals, activities, and a few of communication tips from us. So for start, what is a product trio and why do we even need it? Typically, how you will find product trio defined if you Google it, it consists of 3 people, product manager, product designer, and engineering manager. So the whole idea is that if you have these 3 positions collaborating together and leading a cross-functional team, you should improve the situation with silos, so you should have less silos in your team, and they should collaboratively lead the team to deliver customer-led products. But historically, how it's been working with these 3, if you just put them in a team, product manager could like define what should be done, they can write a brief, product manager would then hand over to the designer, sometimes even with solution, unfortunately. Then designer would just design whatever he or she wants to design, and then designer goes to the engineering and they say like, here it is, develop it. Great, but if you work this way, then each of the position is actually working in a silo and the collaboration is just not happening. You might have the right people, but if they are not collaborating the right way, then you just end up with a waterfall. So actually what the trio is and how they should work together, it's a autonomous unit of like autonomous cross-functional unit in your team, which is leading the team, and they are jointly responsible for the shared outcome. So there shouldn't be no like handovers, okay, my bit stopped right now, I'm not responsible for this anymore, now it's designer's responsibility. They should be jointly responsible every step of the way.
So how do we work? Well, essentially, we own the entire product strategy together because the fact is, during the iterative product development process, we're involved together every step of the way. So in order to come up with a meaningful strategy and a strong strategy, we should be looking at everything from the perspective of both product, design, and engineering. So if we look at the continuous development cycle, whilst there was probably more of a geo-action happening through some of the steps, we always make sure that the full trio is involved in each step of the way. So if we look at discovery, for example, in general, product and design work very closely during the discovery process. You're testing things, you're running experiments, you're speaking to customers. But at the same time, what we found that is having engineering there is incredibly helpful. They bring incredibly different points of view and perspectives to all the scenarios. So we have a rule that for at least the very first, the middle, and the last conversation that we have with clients, we will always make sure engineering is there. They don't have to be at every single one, but they need to be part of the conversation from the beginning. Then we look at solutioning. The solutioning part tends to be very heavily on the design and engineering part, right? So you're creating the prototypes, you're creating the concepts. Engineering might be shipping some small bits of code to run experiments. But at the same time, it's essential for product to be there, to be the voice of the customer, to assess the business value, and understand the actual business viability of what's been worked on. Then when you get all the way to delivery, it's very heavy on the engineering and product side, where engineering, of course, is now shipping code, but product is really focusing on the go-to-market. How do we actually push the value of this, get this in the hand of the clients, measure success? And within that part of measuring success, design is also incredibly important in this, because you are doing a continuous feedback loop. If you get feedback from any customers and you need to pivot or change, you need to understand the feasibility and the usability of what you're working on. So you should have design in the room to allow you to make those fast decisions. It rapidly decreases the time you would spend making decisions and shipping them to your customers. So, what are the benefits of working as a trio? So, essentially, the core of it is risk mitigation. So when we look at the 4 risks, we all look at, in terms of being a product manager, the business viability and the value. So will people actually use this? Does it have value to our business? Does it have value to our users or clients? What is the actual benefit of working on something? And there's a really nice overlap between product and design there, where they're looking at the value of something, but also the usability of it. It might be a great set of functionality, but can people understand it? Will they be able to pick it up off the shelf? How much time are we going to spend getting to people to actually use it? And then, of course, we need to make sure that we have a conversation of engineering, because it might be a fantastic idea, but how feasible is it to actually develop it? Could we stretch that idea even further if the technology allows? So the ability for us to assess these risks gives us the chance to bring the idea to the table for all three parts of the trio, which means essentially you are bringing all three voices to the table, and that essentially gives you space for innovation, right? So if each person is working within the trio, as a product manager, I really want to build something valuable for the users. But Susanna, as a designer, really wants to make sure it's beautiful. People look at it and they're impressed by it. But at the same time, Jakub over here wants to make sure it is built on incredible technology, something that really wows people, something that makes all the engineers excited to work on. So our ability to have that conversation between the three of us before we go into depth into actually building stuff, it's a 15-minute conversation that you can rehash through together and really put together three different perspectives before you even get started. So the great thing about product trios is that it works both vertically and horizontally. So you can have individual teams on the IC level working in product trios, as we do. But for example, in Mews, where we've got over 20 product teams now, we have all product teams with a product trio. So Susanna is speaking to the designers in the other product teams, Jakub is speaking to the other engineering managers, and I'm speaking to other product managers. So if we are building functionality that requires collaboration between multiple teams, it's so much easier to pull more people into the fold to get more buying and increase the impact. Because the fact is, we still need to speak to our director levels and actually convince them that we're working on something that has value for the business. And on the director level, we also scale the trio there as well. So there's always going to be a director level, product person, design, and engineering. When you go to the VP level, exactly the same. We have voices on either side of the table, making sure that when we are pitching all the way to the CPTO, so we have a CPTO rather than a CTO and a CPO at Mews. So when we are pitching ideas, we have buy-in all the way up the chain. So by the time things get to a massive initiative that we might be asking the board or anybody higher up for, we have buy-in every step of the way, and we've already covered all the grounds and asked the tough questions in the beginning.
Very good. So let's look into our origin story. We unfortunately don't have any radioactive spiders in it, but it still holds quite significance for us. So few years ago, me and Alder, we were sitting in this meeting with our sales representatives, and they presented us with following problem. Our customers need a new status for reservation that hasn't not been confirmed yet. So in this scenario, you as a guest would call into a hotel, and you would say, I want to book a reservation with you. And the hotel would say, okay, but let's talk about it a little bit. Right? Let's negotiate about the price or attributes of that reservation, and when that negotiation is over, we will confirm your reservation and you can count on it. And we said, that sounds very reasonable. That's cool. We have something like this already in a system. Not quite, but we can probably use it. It's not activated now, but like it's already there, so it should be relatively easy to do so. Is there any business value? And our sales representative said, oh, of course, right? We have dozens of new clients lined up for this feature, and we will make all the money if we make it. And we said, that's great. Let's make it then. And we agreed on that meeting to develop the feature. Crucially, we did it without talking to Susanna, for example. She would talk us out of it, I'm pretty sure. And we didn't talk to our engineers either. And we went back to the team and we said exactly the same things that we just heard. We said, we have this great feature that everybody wants. We will be just printing money. You know, we can have early retirement if we make this. And everybody was excited and we started doing it. And it felt apart quite fast, I have to say. The feature spent 3 to 4 months, I think, in the development hell. We kept running into problem after problem after problem. And eventually we deployed it to actual users, and we watched it fail again quite fast. Nobody cared. Nobody was using it because nobody needed it. What they actually needed was something completely different. They actually looked for the easiest way to capture availability at scale at the hotel, essentially managing how much rooms you can sell to whom at scale for the big clients, for travel agencies and companies. Very good. So luckily for us, though, a few years after this, we got opportunity to try again. The same set of circumstances, the same set of asks came up again, and we were able to pick it up. And this time, we decided to do it properly. So we talked to clients, we had designers talking to backend engineers, we had content people talking to QA engineers, we had front-end engineers talking to PMs. And because everybody was on the same page, everybody understood what kind of value they are delivering, yes, we were able to develop completely new tool for Mews for managing availability on scale, unlocking new verticals, unlocking new business opportunities for us, and it's something that we still keep developing today, and we will keep developing for foreseeable future. And because everybody was on the same page, we managed to do so quite rapidly in very small iterative loops, with quick prototyping, with quick design work, and with a great kind of outlook for the long-term vision for that particular feature.
So right now I will walk you through a few activities and rituals that we go through as a trio, but also with the rest of the team, which help us to ensure that we can hopefully repeat the success that we had with the second try of this initiative over and over for other problems. So first part is discovery. I know it's not a single activity or it's not a single ritual, it's more of a mindset. So failing really helped us to realize that we just need to have everyone on board. So when we do discovery, really from the initial kickoff, where the three of us are present every time, we go through that through every single project. So it's not even about including us, we also include the rest of the team. They don't have to be on every single meeting, but even hearing from your data analysts, from your QAs, from your developers, they are full of great ideas. And for them also to be part of the loop, to know what's going on the product, it really helps us to build motivation, and they start thinking differently. If they are part of the discovery with you, they start thinking about, okay, so did we actually solve that problem that we talked about? They are less keen to be like, okay, I need this feature, and then we just move on. So really bringing everyone in for the discovery helps a lot and brings different perspective. This picture is us with artificial hippo when we were visiting our client in France, and we enjoyed it very much. I hope client did too. We are doing interviews together as a part of discovery. How we do it is that usually during exploratory phase, I would prepare the interview scenario, and then before we get on a call with the first person, I will run it by Alder and by Jakub, and sometimes even by the rest of the team. There's like nothing worse, no worse missed opportunity as when after 15 interviews that you have just run, you talk to your QA engineer and she would tell me, Zuzana, this is very interesting. Did you try asking about this? And I was like, well, I didn't, but I wish 15 interviews ago that this question would occur to me. So that's why I always share the interview content with the rest of the team. we adjust questions if we need so, and then as we go through interview process, we would invite the rest of the team one by one to just help them build the empathy with the client and really to get them to care about the client and not about the feature. And how we organize all of this. So we are a remote-first company. We work async. We mostly meet on a beer every once a few months, but it's not like the whole team sits together in one office. So we build up a Miro board. We call it Discovery Board, and it's a template with like the most used part of the discovery that we keep doing repeatedly on multiple projects. For example, competitors analysis, interviews, and so on. So at the kickoff of the large project, we would share this. We would say, okay, Alder, you will take this part, Zuzana will fill this part, then data analyst will look over something else. And like this, it helps us to just work more effectively async. It helps us to save time on meetings, and it helps everyone to be on board. And then at some point we see, okay, it's fine, it's full enough, we know enough, and we can move on and reiterate on it back later.
So through every step of the journey, we're always trying to go through the process of discovery faster and faster. So what Zuzana showed you within the discovery board is a collection of multiple frameworks and schools of thoughts that we go through to make sure we get through the process quickly. But at the same time, we always make sure that we start with the customer outcome first. So the opportunity solution tree is a really, really great tool that we use very often, where we outline what the main outcome that we're trying to focus to bring to our customers is. From there, we tend to break it up into different slices already, or themes. And within those slices, we start to explore the opportunities that we can deliver value for our users. Then we take those slices and we do a bit of value mapping. So a lot of you probably see this value mapping board. Again, this is a really quick process. You could probably run through both these items within 30 minutes. We then look at, okay, from these key opportunities that we've outlined, what is technically difficult for us to build? So they'll probably go in the far right quadrant, but probably has a lot of value for our users. This is probably something that we can't do very quickly. It's something that we need to think more deeply about. It's probably a strategic initiative that we need to pull more people into. However, is there anything that we can develop very quickly but has a huge amount of value for customers, right? So that left quadrant is where you want to spend quite a bit of time in terms of really quick wins. It's easy to build, you can get feedback really easily, and you know it has a huge amount of value. Whereas there's always going to be items where you might want to work on, but it probably doesn't have as much value for the users, and you have to be honest with each other about that. And again, that's why working in a trio is really nice, because sometimes we fall in love with our own biases, and we have to be able to let some of those features go because we have to prioritize. And there's always going to be those items where it's pretty clear, it might sound a little exciting, but when you look at the big picture, you got to deprioritize that. And when we start to look into even more depth for each of those items, then once they prioritize, we'll do something like an opportunity assessment, so like a lean canvas or a business canvas, whichever you use at your company. That gives us a nice view of, okay, who are the users, what are the problems, what metrics are we trying to look at? And then from that, it's an easy way that we can really share with our teams. For data, for example, is really easy because from that point, we know what the problem is, we know what metrics we're trying to drive. We get our data analysts to challenge us on those metrics to say, hey, what does this actually mean? Can we get this information? Can we actually measure it? So that's value mapping. And then lastly, slicing. So we know this initiative is worth working on. We know we need to now break it up in terms of delivery increments with the engineering teams to figure out, okay, how do we understand the most amount of value in the least amount of time and effort? So we now start breaking it down with engineering, and I really like the, this slicing board from Startup Scale Up Screw Up, Jürgen Appelle. There's a link down there if we share the slides to have a look at that. Basically, this gives you a really nice, easy way we can put this on a Miro board and put a couple of stickies there to understand what pains your users are going through for a value increment, what gains fixing that increment gives, and outlining what you can actually measure. So what learnings can you actually get from it? So if I deliver this to a user, what am I solving? What do they benefit from? How do I measure it? What am I going to learn from it? The idea from this is that you should either decide to persevere with what you're going to do, pivot towards a different idea, or decide that this is not actually worth it, we should not push further, scrap it, and focus on the next main opportunity that you want to work on. Then we have retrospectives. So we run retrospectives on a weekly basis, even though we have bi-weekly sprints, purely because it gives us a nice point to catch up as a team, review what's been going on, and then also look forward to what's happening for the rest of the sprint. It helps a lot with also being able to set priorities and updates for our leadership teams. So we actually run through a whole bunch of crazy fun retrospectives. The whole concept is based off like a sailboat retrospective. So we started in a sailboat, then we tried a rocket ship for a year, and then this year we decided, okay, let's do something different. So does anyone know what that is right in the middle? Doctor Who, exactly. Thank you very much at the front there. So we went for sort of after rocket ships, where do you go? So we're like, okay, space. How do we stretch ourselves this year to achieve big things? So we're looking at, okay, what helped us move forward in the previous week? What went really well? What did we plan to do and succeed in? Then we look at what held us back. So what did we intend to do within this increment of the sprint, but either we didn't scope it properly, we didn't understand the problem. This is that key point where you start to look at, okay, this is probably something we should not be looking at. Let's change direction. Then we look at future risks ahead. So for the coming week or the coming sprints, what are we worried about? What has not as much clarity as we hope to have in terms of being able to ship things? And that includes discovery and looking at large initiatives. Is something that we thought was really small going to be much bigger? We need to be able to start looking at that right now so we can figure out how to mitigate those risks really quickly. And then lastly, we always actually end the week on a good note. So we talk about what made us feel good. Like, how did you collaborate well with somebody in the team, somebody in another product team? The idea is to really just end the week really nicely with the rest of the team, give everybody a nice kudos, especially for, you know, the unsung heroes within the team. We are massive proponents that building products is a team sport. So your retrospectives should only be, okay, we did this, we're going to do that, we're going to fix stuff. Celebrate your team as well, because they're working hard, they're coming up with ideas. So that's a really important part for us to look at.
To close up, a few tips from us. Being in Product Trio is an exercise in a clear and honest conversation and information exchange. So talk as much as possible, talk daily to your managers, talk daily to your team, set up all of those expectations, be very clear and honest with what you are doing right now, why is it going well, why is it not going well. Do as much of that as possible. It's obviously fine to disagree. As you saw, we hold very different perspectives. But in the end of the day, we do need to come to a conclusion. There needs to be an outcome. That conflict needs to get resolved. And we like to do it as democratically as possible, but based on a hard data, something that we can verify, something that we can measure, something that we can actually have a discussion about. And when you are in that conflict, when you are solving something really, really hard, get a tub of ice cream. Everything is better with ice cream. To summarize, when we aligned, well, after we had a major failure, and hopefully you guys can now skip that step and you can align much sooner than that. And how we move forward? Well, by sharing the vision, by sharing the direction of the product, by sharing the vision for the team, and by sharing the outcome. And that's us. That's how we work in a trio. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you. You can put the microphones. Thank you. Thank you so much. It was really nice to see how you guys failed and then improved. Great. So yes, as you can see, there is the Slido Q&A happening at the end of the talks. Now we have John and Amanda from Tesco. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So my name's Amanda. I'm a PM at Tesco currently. I've been a PM for about 5 years, and I've been at Tesco for the last 15 months. Currently, I'm responsible for looking after the favorites experience in the app. If you've ever placed an online delivery, have any feedback, you know who to speak to.
So I'm John. I'm a UX designer. Been with Tesco about 3 years. Prior to that, I've worked in strategic design agencies, startups, large companies as well. We work in the same area. We're part of the same trio, so we'll tell our story today.
Yeah. And just to clarify, so our engineering counterpart and development team are actually based in Bangalore, so we are co-located between the UK and India. So we'd like to show you a picture of what a product trio shouldn't look like. And unfortunately, for the longest time, Tesco did work this way. Tesco was structured in silos and working in waterfall, so that whatever discovery or idea was put together, it only involved product managers and designers. And then what would happen is it would be handed off to engineers to build. Fortunately, Tesco kind of made a huge agile transformation at the start of 2023 to reduce this sort of handoff process. And now we look a little bit something like this. So it has worked in our favor because we're trying to get closer between product engineering and design all throughout the process, from discovery and initial conception to prototyping and delivery. And really, the biggest stage in which we spend the bulk of our time now working in a trio is this middle section, prototype and test. The aim is really for us to come together and test any initial ideas, make sure we're actually not investing too much upfront development effort, and trying to validate these ideas before anything is brought forward for development. And essentially, it's also a way for us to be able to showcase our ideas to wider stakeholders. We work very closely with our key interfacing teams. So in being a front-end experience, those are our API back-end teams. And to make sure that alongside our trio, we're bringing together our interfacing teams, external stakeholders along the journey from discovery all the way to delivery. And we will be talking about each of these stages and processes in much more detail later. So in reality, what happens is it looks a little bit like this, where when we do put forward an idea and we start to test it, if it fails, we bring it back to the drawing board and re-ideate. If it shows some success and we're confident that it's something worth building, we bring it forward to development. So really, in reality, it looks a bit more like a non-linear progressive diagram where we're trying to make sure at each stage we're building the right thing and building it the right way. So our approach to collaboration in a trio, we come together at different forms of ceremonies. So we have discovery syncs, where we have them twice a week. We have a number of design jams and design reviews where we come together, ideate, and iterate on those ideas. And finally, we have sprint reviews as well, where we evaluate what's been built, get all the relevant sign-offs before anything is pushed live to our customers in production. And I'll hand over to John to speak a little bit in detail for each of these ceremonies.
Yeah, so just try and give you a kind of flavour about what we do in each of these kind of meetings, I suppose. So the discovery sync really is very much based around continuous discovery. So if you've heard of Teresa Torres, she came to Tesco a few years ago, showed everybody how to do continuous discovery, and we're doing it. So we do interviews every week with customers. We review those interviews, but we also kind of aggregate all of our feedback through Chattermill, which is a kind of aggregating system, and look at that as well on a weekly basis. And on the basis of that, we kind of condense down and come up with an opportunity solutions tree. Now we involve our engineers in that process really so that they've got like full visibility of the customer voice, what they're actually saying, how they're actually saying it, and they really understand what those problems are from the very first. The next stage. Sorry, not the next stage. So this is a kind of view of the kind of things we do. So Opportunity solution tree would be one thing that we would be doing as part of that meeting. The other one is ideation. Once we picked up an idea, we'll ideate around that again, involving engineers as part of that process. Get very different ideas from engineers as solutions to problems, often a lot quicker as a solution. And then prioritization. And then once we've prioritized an idea, we then go into kind of fleshing out that idea in a bit more detail, and that might involve, you know, Crazy 8, sketching, actually looking at user journeys, bringing it to life a little bit more. This is more of a design ceremony, I guess, or has been up till now. We're thinking of extending it, but we call it a design jam. Now, really what this is about is everybody in Figma together, getting multiple designers, content designers as well, UI designers and UX designers working together to solve a particular problem and idea. And what we find is that we get really quick kind of divergence of ideas, lots of different ideas from different places, and very quick convergence because we can have conversations live on Figma. So within 2 or 3 hours, we can explore quite a big problem space and then narrow it down to a solution that we might want to then go into test with. So that brings us on to the kind of next stage, which is the kind of design review. So once we've come up with that design, we then every week will show that to the engineers, whatever stage it's at. It could be super early stage, could just be a sketch, but usually it's a prototype these days. Usually it's a Figma prototype with a bit of journey in there. We'll show it to the engineers, get some feedback on that, and again that we can then take that back into the design jam again, iterate on that idea, and then go on to improve it. So this is something we developed kind of last year. This is like, it's kind of a design sprint, I suppose. We can do 2 of these within one 2-week sprint. But we start with, say, a design jam where we take an idea from the opportunity solutions tree, come up with an idea, create a prototype, prepare a test, and then set that test running over the weekend on user testing, usually as an unmoderated test. Then we come back on Monday. We've got a load of insight and data. We look through that on the Monday, and then on Tuesday we're ready to then go in with some, a kind of much fuller idea about whether it worked, whether it didn't, and then discuss it with the engineers. And then that takes us into another round, and we can basically do 2 loops of that. We can get through maybe 3 to 4 ideas within a 2-week period and explore them and get quite good data back on whether it's a valid idea.
And
sorry.
And finally, towards the end, we have sprint reviews. So these are traditionally driven by engineering and normally happening at the end of every sprint. So that's something we're actually trying to change. We're trying to sort of bring in stakeholders as well as design throughout the sprint by having consistent feedback loops to make sure that engineers have a chance to fix issues earlier, and to make sure if any designs need to be adjusted, they can do so early on in the journey before anything is even pushed to customers. And we're trying to front load all of that iteration where we can earlier in the sprints. So what we've been trying to illustrate through how our trios interact with all of these ceremonies from the start to the end of the sprint is really that we do come together and converge at many points. However, it's equally as important to acknowledge that it is important for us to kind of diverge and give importance to the strengths of our individual roles. So for example, we do come together as a team to understand, listen to customer feedback, understand the pain points, define the problem, and start ideating together. However, there could be individual next steps that we take on. For example, gathering additional data points, running additional customer interviews, so that we can validate our assumptions throughout this discussion. And the point being is that we want to come together at each session with updates where we're able to make a decision, decide on what's the next step, whether we park an idea and focus on another problem, or whether an idea is worth taking forward. And then whatever idea we do decide to prioritize and think we're confident in pushing, engineering is largely driven by our development team. However, we're trying to bring in QA in the QA process, design stakeholders, to make sure that they see this initial idea, come to life and also are able to, be accountable for this feature that we start pushing live to customers in the end. So all throughout this process, we're coming together, but equally, bringing our own individual insights and perspectives, which is valuable and also time efficient. So this brings us to our sort of round off. Throughout this process, the reason why it's valuable for our trio to come together is because we're making sure we're aligning all of our individual interests and perspectives into one joint vision and strategy. So speaking personally as a product person, for every idea and feature that we talk about, I'm always going to think about, does this align with the wider business strategy? Will this move our OKRs forward in the right direction? And will this feature be viable in the market? And will it be successful? From a design standpoint, probably the things that are going through their head is, do customers want this? Is this desirable? Will this be usable? And more importantly, is this going to be inclusive and accessible for all of our customers? From an engineering standpoint, they're probably thinking about, is this feasible? Are there any build limitations or constraints in our tech stack? Will there be any refactoring or code cleanup required once we build something? And if you're as interconnected with your tech stack as a big company like Tesco, we also have to think a lot about build dependencies, which teams will we have to enlist the help of to bring a feature to life. So working in a trio has been really valuable from our perspective for 3 key reasons. Number 1, it helps us de-risk assumptions and make faster decisions. And we aim to try to do this as quickly as possible in our discovery syncs. Number 2, we can have more ideation cycles, leading to more tangible A/B tests, which also help with further learning and insight. And finally, and ultimately, we want to build features quickly and iteratively for our customers and to make sure we're bringing value to them as quickly as possible.
So, I mean, it doesn't come without its challenges, and it's something that we're continually evolving in terms of how we do it. So, one of the challenges is just having too many meetings. So you notice maybe for the discovery syncs, we have like 4 hours of those a week, so 2 2-hour sessions. And sometimes that can feel like a lot. We tried to trim it down to kind of 2 hours, but then what we found is that when we were really in a kind of ideation phase, then the continuous discovery kind of fell by the wayside and we weren't really kind of listening to the customers anymore. So at the moment we've committed to kind of, keep that 4 hours in our diary to do that discovery process, whether it be understanding what the opportunities are or actually kind of going into more of the assumption testing type phase of that. If we don't need to do it, we cancel it. And that's really the kind of principle of like avoiding kind of meeting overkill. The same with the design reviews. If there's nothing to review, we won't do it that week and we'll just cancel it. The other challenge is like cross-platform considerations. So we do try and take an opportunity and do that cross-platform now. We didn't used to. We used to have some features that were done on the web and some were done on the app, and the functionality was never really aligned. So we're trying to fix that by starting with the opportunity and doing it cross-platform. But obviously, different platforms run at different rates and different engineering teams run at different rates, so that we can get a little bit out of step sometimes, so that although we're working on the same idea, maybe one team won't be ready to implement that for like 1 or 2 months later than the other one. So we have to kind of deal with those asynchronous differences as well. Time zone differences, as Amanda said, our engineering team's based in Bengaluru, so we need to kind of arrange most of our meetings so that they're like in the morning or certainly before 1 o'clock, because that's the best time for everybody to talk. And then the last challenge really is just kind of keeping knowledge, I suppose. I'd probably, it's just having tidy Miro boards is probably like the best way of describing it, and using Confluence effectively. So people will come and leave a team, and you want really to be able to get them to arrive, see your boards, understand what's going on, for them to be legible and to get up and running quite quickly. So kind of tidiness is kind of important and really does help kind of, you manage that knowledge, with people coming and going.
And so the key lessons that we want to share with everyone based on our experience, and I just want to caveat, this is very specific to our team. There are multiple product teams in Tesco, and you might, if you ask someone different, they might give you slightly different advice. But for us, we have 4 key lessons to sort of impart today. Number 1 is it's very important to immerse your engineers in the problem space, including listening to the customer feedback. This provides them with the wider context to really understand the opportunity as a whole, as opposed to just focus on what are the solutions. And I think you'd be very surprised with the innovative ideas that they will bring to the table once they are kind of aligned with everyone on what is the problem we are trying to solve. So make them part of the process of solving this problem and challenge that you want to focus on. Number 2, avoid back and forth discussion. As you can see, each member of the trio has a different perspective that they are probably always going to center around. So it's okay to disagree, but it's really important to leverage frameworks and methodologies that help the team either focus themselves on data or focus themselves on anchor points where you can agree as a team what the next step is, prioritize, move on, and move forward quickly. Number 3, the aim is always to learn quickly, fail fast, and reduce waste where possible. There is no point in building something that customers, A, have not said they want, or B, will probably not be viable in the market. And it's equally very frustrating to spend multiple sprints building something that the team weren't really aligned on in the shared vision. So where possible, leverage these methodologies of unmoderated testing, user interviews, prototypes, wireframes, quick and dirty, easy things you can mock up to really bring to life what you're trying to build. And then once you get all that buy-in and you're confident that it will succeed, start building it. And number 4, our way of working is not perfect. We're still trying to improve it. So it's really important for us to come together as a team to continue to inspect, communicate what's working, what maybe doesn't work, and maybe what we should try, and adapt it. And we do that through having bi-weekly retros. So we hope you found this useful. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your schedule of the ceremony. It was something I'm going to still adapt. So we got lots of time, lots of food, and lots of drinks left. So we're going to take 10 minutes break back here at 8 o'clock for our Q&A. And yeah, there is the QR code on Slido, which you can drop more questions there. So yeah, back at 8. Thank you.
he sent me a message to say you comes here. Like when you change the video, I updated your photo. It's a giraffe, and the name is Matthew. You leave this man. I'm gonna rename it Disney. I made this Disney Homer Simpson of like drugs it on like. So hard to do this already. Really go back and forth and shit.
Ready? So I think if we do one mic between you two, and then just feel free to, Serena will either ask direct questions, or if you want to chip in on anything, feel free to just take the mic, have a bit of words. And then I'll give that to that group.
It's so cold here.
Oh, great.
If you folks just share that between you as a mic, and then Serena will ask questions. If you ever want to chip in with anything, feel free.
We can sit there. I think it would make more sense to sit next to you. Should we sit there and I sit there?
Great. We are doing our Q&A now. I was checking the question. We have a lot of questions. Let's start with the first one. So, this is from James. What are some of the internal or operational metrics you use to understand the effectiveness of these mechanics you've implemented to work better as a trio? And it's open to everyone, I guess.
Yeah, I got it. I think time to value is a really good metric, especially for us, because we found that our time to deliver actual value to our users is substantially faster. And that's part of why we keep promoting working as a trio, is we definitely find that you build faster, you make ideas, and sometimes you fail faster, which is actually a really good thing because you learn a lot faster. So that's, to me, top level metric is what is the time to value to your customers.
Amanda, John, do you want to add? See, John. Okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think we measure it like as a separate thing. You know, we have our objectives that we're trying to hit within favorites. But you do get a sense that, you know, similar to what you're saying, that, you know, we're generating more ideas, we're releasing more ideas, and we're moving those metrics quicker. So you get a sense of velocity, I think, you know, but it's not something we actually actively measure as such. The engineers do.
I just wanted to add, I guess like one metric we do kind of review quite often every month is the number of A/B tests we launch as well. So kind of similar to what Aldair said, we kind of try to maintain a velocity of almost the deliverables that each team is contributing towards. And then we also attribute revenue that comes off the back of those tests. But if we're focusing on operationally, you know, velocity is probably the best measure, and we also quantify that through the number of tests that we're launching to try to improve the different experiences across app and web.
And then I guess, just following from that, you measure like what was the value that was added by these tests
Yes.
as well? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, the revenue.
Okay, yeah.
Forecasted
Perfect.
revenue.
Yeah, because I was thinking like launching A/B tests. If it doesn't add any more value, it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, thank you. Great, next question. I mean, I lost them. Please, can you share the structure of your last customer interview and what you learned? I'm curious how you are inclusive to the whole trio.
If I would have to remember my last, probably, I'm not sure if it was the last, but the one that comes back was the exploratory interview with one of our clients. It was about a particular topic around how to save time around billing, and basically the structure, how we usually do it with exploratory research at the beginning of the process, is that we just try to let them talk, basically. Every customer is very, very different based on their business model, based on how they run their hotel. The conversation is always different. So I would prepare all the questions. At the beginning, we would always ask to describe their business model, because how they actually work really sets the tone for the rest of the interview. And then in a semi-structured manner, I have those questions which I run through with the team, and depending on how the customer is going through, I would ask extra questions. What we are really trying to avoid is to that multiple of us would start asking questions in a disorganized manner. And this is also one of the purposes of agreeing ahead, because I don't want Alder, for example, to jump in the middle of customer explaining something. I want the rest of the team to be aware there will be time and place for a particular question. So just to let the customer speak as much as possible.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, we do interviews, and we also do kind of unmoderated tests as well. We do a lot of unmoderated tests, and I think so. The one that's sticking in my mind was actually just watching a video of an unmoderated test today that was around meal planning, and what they were talking about was, we just had a little bit of copy that had been written by the content designer that said, this is the meal, and it just said 3 ingredients. And that was what everybody responded to when they were looking at the prototype. They just focused in on the fact 3 ingredients. That just means that it's really quick and easy to make, and that's the most important thing to me. So I think you can learn anything from it, but it's not just about doing a kind of structured interview. You can just get people to look at something and then look at commonalities in what they say, and you can learn a lot from that.
I just wanted to add something as well, because I think one part of the question is maybe how each member of the trio feeds in. So I can speak to a previous team I've been at Tesco, where we just started up continuous discovery and interviewing customers. And I basically encouraged my engineers, for example, who is a kind of a team who normally isn't as involved in the sort of discovery process, and especially customer interviews, to basically observe. And what would happen is they would be able to sort of feed into the questions towards the end. We normally kind of, as a team, open the question and let the interviewee know, some members of the team might jump in now for any questions we haven't covered. But after any interview with customers, we tend to have a sort of debrief or wash up where, we have our trio come together and input on how they found the customer, what's each person's key takeaway. And I think that's a good way, again, to see how everyone interpreted that interview and what they sort of took from that. I think normally engineers tend to focus on solutionizing quickly. So sometimes when they've given a suggestion of an improvement, an idea comes to mind when they're like, oh, maybe we could do this, or maybe we haven't considered this, but we should. And so that's just to bring to light how everyone feeds into the conversation, both before and after.
Thank you. This is an interesting one. How do you work through urgent discovery as a team when you have a high priority new request come through? Again, it's open to everyone. You say no to stakeholders? No, we're not going to do that.
I can, but...
Sure. No, we obviously need to reprioritize, right? If the scenario is, it's a high priority, we need to do something about it right now, and we are doing something else, we need to stop doing something else, right? We need to stop that work. We, again, need to get back to our managers and our team and put this into the context, right? We are, as engineers at least, we are happy to pick up something else, new topic, but it comes with a penalty, as everything. So, we will stop at some point executing on a roadmap, for example, right? And we will put all of that into the backlog, and we will refocus ourselves, but it needs to be understood. We need to be very clear that there will be a major impact on what we promised.
I just wanted to add to this, if it's urgent and it's, a bomb that falls, okay, now this problem is super urgent because of a particular reason. What Jakub said about being very clear to the leadership and to the rest of the company on what is the impact on the rest of the work, that is of course one thing, but then sometimes or in our case, what gets the sudden priority is a big problem for a particular client, for a particular property. It's not like 500 clients would suddenly say, yes, this is a priority. It's because of someone specific is raising this. And then if we decide to pick this up, how we try to like validate it quickly, we have various methods. Like I would jump in, try to do a quick solutioning, often with Jakub. In this case, I would try to involve as much people as possible because we really need to go through it quickly. Then we have various methods of like validating it. We would share videos of demo of variants with our clients. We would gather feedbacks. We would do quick use-berry testing. We have a lot of clients who are used to collaborating with us and used to providing feedback. So sometimes we'll already have a pool of people we can like add to this validation to increase certainty of that like what we are doing is not only covering one particular case of the person who escalated it, but it's actually scalable solution that will help processes to all of our, maybe not all of our, but more clients than one who is doing the escalation. So we are always really trying to deliver something that will have value and a meaning in a greater picture and not only that particular use case.
I agree with everything they've said. I guess the only thing to add, and it's more of a summary, is, there's various methods of frameworks you can use in discovery. If something's urgent, I'm not encouraging to skip steps, but there are ways to almost go in with more assumptions and try to find ways or quicker ways, shorter ways, less time consuming to validate those. I think if something has come in as urgent, it gives me the impression there's a lot of or some data and insight that you can leverage, which can help you come to that initial idea or solution faster, and you kind of bypass having a whole cycle and you kind of have a mini design sprint or design cycle to sort of understand what you can do as an MVP to kind of plug the issue for now.
Right, thank you. Let me go through the next one. If I want to start working on a product trio, how do I get started? How do I persuade my designer and my engineering manager to give it a go? I don't know who wants to go first, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think you'll have any issues like persuading the designer to get involved. They usually feel quite, kind of a bit under the cuff and told what to do, by product managers. So, any opportunity to get involved in prioritizing what the design would be, I'm sure the designers are going to jump at it.
I think ultimately it's just making sure everyone has a voice and we understand like what's the problem or what are we trying to achieve, make it very outcome driven. I think it might be the case sometimes, for example, engineers might not feel like they need to contribute. And, I'm the type of person that likes to encourage that, they should, they probably have some ideas that they don't think are worth sharing, but really are. So it's just kind of creating that open forum, loose agenda, and just openly ideating.
I think the first thing is that you need to be able to bring people to the table, and you need to understand what their interest is in their day-to-day. Like what gets Jakub excited about a topic, what gets Susanna excited in design as well. But the same with your data engineers, like what Amanda was saying. Because the fact is, if you can explain to people clearly what the outcome is, it is one thing, right? That's super important. But the ability to give them context in terms of the problem they're solving completely changes their perspective. Like if you put an engineer behind a table, give them a computer and say, build this, like sure, they can do it, but you're hiring smart people to solve problems. And if you're able to tell them, like, listen, I believe you're smart enough to solve the problem. Would you like a seat at the table? I trust your voice and your opinion. That's the main thing. To me, that's what people want to hear. Like, this is a problem you're solving. But also, I think, as a product manager, one thing that I failed at before is sometimes we only involve the team in that starting bit, in the discovery. But you have to also be really clear in terms of the metrics and the impacts. Sure, it's really great and you should be putting it to leadership, But that ability to show the rest of your team, like, this is the value your work has, this is what people are saying about what you've done and what you've delivered, this is how you've changed people's every day, I think that has a massive impact. So it's not just about giving them a seat at the table at the beginning, let them see what the impact is, because you're going to be building something else later. If you want them to spend that time, you have to show them that you do value their time.
Just last thing to add, in our team especially for developers, I think what really helps them get excited is seeing Jakub and how he really enjoys doing discovery with us and how he is a part of that like product thinking and affecting like where the product will go, and they see him going on the customer interviews and participating, and they want to do the same. So really like leading by example, I think that also works very well.
Can I do a quick story?
Of course.
We have a great case of this from our recent customer visit. So we went to this high-profile client of ours, and we had 2 backend engineers with us on that trip. And we were going through their workflows, and there was something odd about the way they just did stuff. And one of those backend engineers was kind of listening to it, for a few hours, and then he started to just asking, questions about that workflow itself. And in like half an hour, he talked that client out of piece of work that they wanted us to do, and it would take us 6 months, right? And we were like secretly high-fiving under the table. We just saved half a year of work just having an engineer in a room that who understood what they need to do, and he just cut through like all of those things that they were just saying, about it, because that's how their previous system worked, and there were some workarounds they developed around it. And if you have stories like this, if you can share this sort of insight with other developers, developers are lazy. Like, we don't like to build stuff, actually. Like, we like to sit around the computer and type on our fancy mechanical keyboards, right? So if you keep building up this sort of notion, right? Like, you can just do this sort of you can just have this sort of insight. Yeah, that's great.
Thank you. So one more question. How do you prioritize solving the same problems across the trios, since each one has a different line manager? Are you taking away to other priorities outside of the trio?
I think with the way we have it structured at Mews, having a trio above us makes it a lot easier. And we didn't always have that. I think when we didn't have a clear trio structure, at some point, for example, we didn't have someone in design direction, right? And you can feel how things start to lean more towards the product and engineering side when design is missing there, because then it's more difficult for us to have that design voice in there. At that same time, if you are working as a strong enough trio, you should be able to articulate the value together, right? That's the whole point of you guys challenging each other. It's going to be harder, but at the same time, it's difficult for them to argue through multiple scenarios if you've already done the work.
I think at Tesco, culturally, we have pushed a lot of the product teams to be very cross-functional. So although each counterpart has a different line manager, we're all kind of bought in and are kind of working together to evolve the same long. On the engineering side, alongside, pushing forward our OKRs, which are very customer facing, contributing towards revenue, but equally customer satisfaction. There are also some tech objectives, and, they're made very transparent to myself. So we actually push forward a joint. I'm not sure about the design side, but we're all working together to sort of, like I said, be very outcome driven, working on these initiatives that, are technically improving our tech stack. We do a lot of refactoring, address our tech debt in sprints, but equally are trying to overall improve the customer experience. So I think it's just about everyone having visibility of this roadmap. If there are any changes or any blockers that might, delay anything that was in that roadmap, we have a discussion about it, but we all should be working towards that same joint vision.
Great, thank you. So what is one standout software that has really helped your product team succeed? Sorry, I jumped to another one as well. What is one standout software that has really helped your product team to succeed?
Software.
Yeah, there is, if there was any.
Yeah, probably is Miro, actually. I don't know. I mean, I think everything kind of changed kind of post pandemic, you know, everybody working remotely. I don't know, like even, you know, all Word, Office, they just seem like ancient things now, you know. So I don't know. I just live in a world of, infinite canvases these days with Figma, Miro, and, you know, Confluence if I want some structure. And that's it, really. I don't think you need anything else.
Do you same? Yeah.
I think for us, just something slightly different is we use Gainsight. We used to use Heap, but like as a data analysis tool, and Gainsight has a really good balance of like quantitative and qualitative data. Like the speed at which we're able to gather information and insights without asking like a data engineer, amazing. Like nobody's digging into the database. Between the three of us, we can have a conversation, and as we're speaking, go into there and like, okay, well, I think this is how people are using it, and we can validate that again super quickly. And once we release something to beta test or something, we can just create a quick survey targeted specifically to those beta testers. We're not spending time on like hundreds of calls, and I don't know who sent out surveys to clients before. If anyone works in B2B and you send it out to like 1,000 people and like 5 get back to you, like so frustrating. But like I feel like with gains, like the average turnover is probably like maybe like 40-50% of people actually get back to us now, which if you was like 1%, it's so nice.
I agree with Gainsight. It's great that I can pull out data I want. I don't have to like wait for anyone. Of course, if I want something more challenges, I can approach data analyst, but all three of us can operate Gainsight. But to add to this, we also use user voice, which is like a feedback platform. Our users can like request a feature or say like this is a problem, and then they are upvoting it, so we can see like this feedback from them. We can see the amount of votes, and we have contacts of the people who upvoted this, which is super useful when you're seeking feedback on that particular problem. And actually people who upvoted a problem have the biggest response rate when we are then seeking respondents for our moderated testing, when we are seeking respondents for service or for anything. So this is also great.
Nice, thank you. And one last question, if I can. Okay. What was the biggest challenge you had to overcome moving to a product trio model? If any, maybe there was none.
That they didn't invite me to the conversation on that first thing.
The first one was a test run.
It was a test run, but since I joined Mews, I was in the product trio, and I have to say it went, of course, apart from a few learnings that we had when we failed and we have to just adapt as we went, it went quite smoothly, because the rest of my trio really always, we wanted, all of us wanted to make it work, and if there was any hiccup, it was because of our maybe lack of experience at the time, but since all of us wanted to move forward and just do the right thing at the end, we always figured out a way how to like learn from our mistakes and move forward. So I was lucky enough that I didn't have to like convince my PM that like design is important. So
I will probably say the line managers. Like while we have been on board with the idea, right? Like it took like the rest of that organization like a little bit of time to catch up, and like those early discussions were very complicated, because obviously, you know, we are being pushed. All of us are being pushed to a different direction by our managers, and getting like their alignment, I think was a bit of a work for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It's definitely kind of outside forces, but inside the trio, you know, your goal is really just to get balance, and you know, balance in terms of everybody feeling as though they have a voice, everybody understanding how they can communicate with the other person, understanding their styles, you know. If you've got imbalance in there, if you've got like one quiet person that doesn't really contribute, then that's not good, and you need to try and fix that in some way so that, you know, everybody does have that voice, so that it is like a functioning trio. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge, is just that forming and norming of that team, those team relationships, so that they really work.
Great, thank you so much. So this is it. Thank you again. It was, yeah, I really enjoyed it. I assume we still have more drinks and food, so you're more than welcome to stick around, finish everything, because otherwise, yeah, we're not gonna bring it home. We follow us on Facebook. LinkedIn. I don't even have Facebook. Follow us on LinkedIn, and I'll see you next month. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can.